You guys know, Parshas Ki Tavo. So there are a lot of different things in Parshas Ki Tavo, a lot of different themes. Going through Sefer Devorim, every parsha is power-packed. There are halachos, there are mitzvos, there are stories, there are a variety of different things. In Parshas Ki Tavo, we have something called the tochacha. What is the tochacha? Gentlemen, you never learned Parshas Ki Tavo in school? No, so what does the word tochacha mean?
Rebuke.
Tochacha means rebuke. What does rebuke mean? When someone gives you musar. Hashem says, if you do the mitzvos, these are your rewards. Boom, 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 boom. But if you don't do the mitzvos, and you make mistakes, and you do averot, then these are the curses. The tochacha is the rebuke. Good evening. We have these type of psukim twice in the Torah. This week, Parshas Ki Tavo. When was the other time we had the same list of rebuke? Not exact, but close. Which parsha? The end of Vayikra. What's the end of Vayikra? Bechukotai. In Parshas Bechukotai, the rebuke, the curses, are in 49 psukim. In our parsha, they're 98. It's double. Bechukotai refers to the first Beis Hamikdash. Ki Tavo refers to the second Beis Hamikdash. Bechukotai was said by Hashem through Moshe. This was said by Hashem, but Moshe said it in his words. And then the Torah wrote it down. In Parshat Bechukotai, it is Hashem's Midat Hadin, strict judgment. Here it's Midat HaRachamim. In Parshas Bechukotai, there are psukim of Nechama. It says in the process, at the end, Hashem will remember His promises to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He will take you out, He will redeem you, He will save you. Here, it doesn't exist. Those psukim are not there. But in exchange, in our Parsha Ki Tavo, it says something that it doesn't have in Bechukotai. I'll give you an example. V'hoya im lo tishma b'kol Hashem Elokecha. If you don't hear it, listen to the voice of Hashem. When it says Hashem's name, what is that? Midat Hadin or Midat HaRachamim? Rachamim. Throughout the entire Parsha, it has Hashem's name 26 times. In Bechukotai, doesn't have Hashem's name at all. It says, Oru Atobayir, you'll be cursed in the city. Yishalech Hashem b'cha, Hashem will send curses to you. In Bechukotai it says curses will be sent. Here it says Hashem will send it to you. Yadvek Hashem b'cha adav, Hashem will send pestilence. It uses Hashem's name. Yiten Hashem es matar artzocha, Hashem will stop the rain. It uses Hashem's name. 26 times it says God's name. Midat HaRachamim. So even though Bechukotai is Midat Hadin, it was stronger and referred to the first Beit HaMikdash, our Parsha refers to the second Beit HaMikdash, it's Midat HaRachamim. There is no consolation. The Medrashim say, the Zohar, different people, the Gemara says it. Who designed the order of the Parshios when they're read? Ezra HaSofer. And Ezra HaSofer arranged it that we always read Ki Tavo right before Rosh Hashanah. Not the week of Rosh Hashanah, usually the week before. There's a Shabbos in between, Parshas Nitzavim, even though Nitzavim carries the same theme. What did Ezra say? What did the Gemara say? That when you get to this time of year, right before Rosh Hashanah, you know what most people say? What a horrible year this was. When it started, we had great hopes for this year. But now that we've gone through the entire year, when you think about all the killings and all the tragedies and all the floods and all the loss of life and all the people in our community who died, who were here last year, who were not here this year. So Ezra said a statement. He said, you know why we read this? We say to Hashem, that's it, the curses, get them in now. Let this year be finished. Finish the year, finish the curses. enough already, behind me. I don't want to start these curses next year. Next year we're going to start fresh. Hopefully everybody will have a great year. That's what Ezra did. This Bechukotai was read right before Shavuot. Again, Shavuot, the giving of the Torah, is a fresh beginning. Ezra said the same thing. Mid-year check, get the curses out of the way. Come Shavuot, we're going to get the Torah. Hashem forgave the sin of the golden calf. Fresh beginning, fresh start. Let's begin fresh. So twice in the year, one before Shavuot, one before Rosh Hashanah, we approach the year with an attitude of, thank God the year is over. Now you guys are young, some of us are not. You know, some of us keep records of all the tragedies. You know, you have to think back. 12 months is a long time. Remember last week we talked about that in 12 months you forget. You know, trying to think back of all the things that happened, you know, there were a lot of great people that died, you know, recently and over the course of the year. You know, it's hard to imagine. In our communities, there were more than ample funerals, you know, if you think about it. You know, if we would keep a record of every time something bad happened, if we kept a log, you know, we would write it down. And we would sit here now and we would look it over, we would be shocked at all the things that happened in the course of a year. You know, again, when you're young, you don't sense it as much. When you're older, you sense it a little bit more. But it's fascinating, the idea. The idea is get all the curses in now, wrap it all up, put it behind me, forget about it. Okay. In Ki Tavo, there's an interesting pasuk. I'm going to read it to you because it's going to be something that it should be familiar to you. It says as follows. In the blessing part, it says, Unesanacha Hashem l'rosh v'lo l'zanav. Hashem should make you a head and not a tail. Why should that be familiar to you?
Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah. What happens on Rosh Hashanah?
We are at the beginning of the year.
So, on Rosh Hashanah, there's a custom in many homes, I don't think Bukharian homes are any different, where they do signs, simanim. Okay? Do you do signs at your table? Mm-hmm. Sunday night, Monday night, you're going to do signs. What are some of the signs that you do? Let's hear some of the things that you do on Rosh Hashanah. I didn't bring a list, but what are some of the things you do on Rosh Hashanah? You make kiddush, you make hamotzi, then the first thing you do is you take an apple, and what do you do with it?
Dip in the honey.
Dip it in the honey. And you make a bracha borei pri ha'etz, because it's not really included in the meal, because it's not part of your meal. You eat it, and you say, Yehi Ratzon, it should be the will of Hashem, that we should have a Shana Tova Umetuka. A good year and a sweet year. Okay. That's one of the simonim. Now it's interesting. It's interesting because if you think about honey, and we talk about in this week's Parsha, the 7 fruits of Israel, it says Israel is a land flowing with honey. What kind of honey, when it refers to the land of Israel, are they talking about? From what tree? Dates. Date honey. But here on Rosh Hashanah, when we dip the apple in honey, it's not date honey, it's bees honey. A little bit unusual, it's a little bit different. Some Sfardim have the custom to dip it in sugar, not honey, but let's say honey. But it's interesting that it's bees honey. Why? Because bees sting. Dates don't bite you. Bees could bite you. And what we say is that in spite of the fact to get the honey, we put ourselves at risk of getting a bee bite, which is painful, we still do it, and we say to Hashem, this year coming up, we want the sweetness, we don't want the bite. Okay, so we use bee honey because that's the symbol we want. We want the message. We don't want to get bitten. We don't want pain. We want sweet without pain. Okay? Sweet without pain. So to use sugar defeats the purpose. Using bees honey, we say to Hashem, we want the sweetness without the pain. Okay, give me something else that we do. We do 10 different things. What else do we do?
Pomegranate.
We have a pomegranate. We eat some of the seeds. And we say that we should have as many mitzvahs as their seeds. I guess so they believe that there were 613 seeds in a pomegranate. There really isn't. If you want to sit there and count them, it'll take you a few hours, but probably count about 400 or some odd
He
seeds.
said not now, before we used to do.
Right. Maybe the older ones were bigger. At any rate, but we eat pomegranate seeds, and we should have mitzvahs like a rainbow. Some people eat a piece of carrot. Carrot is gezer. Gezer means gazar, to cut. You should cut us a good judgment. Okay? Some people eat cabbage or dates.
Dates.
Not dates. Dates also, figs. Some people eat beets. You know, they're all different things we eat. We eat fish. Then we should be fruitful and multiply like fish.
What kind of fish? Any kind of fish?
Hey, gefilte fish. We're talking about Ashkenazis. Gefilte fish.
Met de fasol.
But you're forgetting one of the things we do.
Ons kazanje beans.
Many in the Gemara it talks about
Beans.
you have the head of a ram, a sheep's head on the table.
Yeah.
And you eat a piece of the sheep's head and you say, Yeh l'rosh v'lo l'zonov. Now, we don't use sheep's head and we don't have a ram. Those are not things that we can get easily. But we do have the head. What head do we use? Fish head, exactly. We get the head of a fish. The kids look at it and this fish head is on the table. They can't look at it. We give them a little piece and we say, Yiratzon, Sheniye l'rosh v'lo l'zonov. We want to be the head and not the tail. Now, that's not so simple. What does that mean we want to be the head? Does that mean we want to be the boss? So if the wife eats it at the table, she wants to have the job of her husband?
Why
Is
not?
that what it is? Maybe.
No, in Torah.
And maybe if the husband eats it, he'll get the job of his wife. I don't know. Maybe that's what it'll be. Maybe it's good that you change jobs a little bit. Good to know how each other feels. The Meforshim say that sometimes people are fakers. You know what caterers do? When they have a display, they have this beautiful fish display. But to show that it's fish, they take the head of the fish and the tail and they put the two together.
Together.
Right. So you have a little fish at the top, the head and the tail. What's missing is the body. The body is in front of you, it's all cut up. So he says some people are fakers. That means they're simply the head of a tail. That means if you're going to be the head, you don't want to be the head of a tail. You want to be the head of a head. You want to be a leader amongst leaders. So it's not so easy when you say, Miye l'rosh v'lo l'zonov. It means I want to be the head, but not of a bunch of tails. I want to be the head of quality people. How do you become the head? You have an election, they make you the chief rabbi that week? It doesn't work that way. It's not about that. People become the head by acclamation, by going out there and doing good things. When you go out there and you do good things, you become the head. Okay? And if you do that, then you'll be successful. Now, let me share with you some news stories that are out there. My brother-in-law came over to visit and he told us some interesting stories. Let me share with you some stories, real life stories, that we should learn a lesson of how we deal with people. Okay. In the 5 towns, you know what the 5 towns are? Woodmere, Cedarhurst, you know the 5 towns. They have an organization that collects clothing. Not worn out clothing that you're going to throw out, but clothing in good condition. Not brand new necessarily, but sometimes you wore something once or twice, you don't want to wear it anymore, it's not your style, it's not your color, it doesn't fit. So instead of giving it to Goodwill, you can give it to this organization and they pack it up and they ship it to Israel to poor families who can't afford clothing. And everything is numbered. When it comes to girls' dresses, there's size 2 and size 3 and size 4. Then you have women dresses, also different sizes. You have men clothing, pants, shirts, etc. They pack it up and each box has a number, size 3, size 5, whatever it is. In Israel, they have distribution. They have people who they check out need this, like a Tomchei Shabbos, but for clothing. And they come, and a mother comes and says, I have 4 daughters, and I need a size 3 dress, a size 5, a size 7, and she gets those numbered dresses, and it's in a box, and she gets the box, and she comes home and she unpacks it. They don't choose colors, it's a gift. Okay? I'll give you an example just on the side. I usually go to Israel in January, and on Thursday, they have on Rehov Shmuel Hanavi a alley, like this part of the road that they close off. And farmers and stores bring carrots, fruits, oranges, grapes, challah, unbelievable stuff. And volunteers, many times, mostly Americans, American tourists, we go every year, and we pack up these bags. And we pack up bags of this, and people come who cannot afford, usually widows from soldiers who died in the war, or elderly people who live on a set income, or people who don't have jobs, and they come and we give them out this food. Now, it's not my food, it's not my organization. I volunteer. I get there around 10 o'clock till about 12. And then we work for a good 2 hours. It's exhausting. And then my wife and I will go, and last year we went to Yad Vashem afterwards. We'll go someplace, whatever it is on a Thursday. So there's some wonderful organizations. Anyway, here's this lady from she just doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And she goes down and she picks up this box of clothing for her kids. School is starting, and she picks up a box of clothing. And she starts going through the clothing. This is for her daughter Devorah, and this is for her daughter Rachel, and this is going to be for Bat Sheva, and maybe some for her boys. And then there's a dress in there for her, which is perfect because she has a wedding that night. She had nothing to wear anyway, so she got a new dress. She puts on the new dress, and all of a sudden she feels like there's a pin sticking her on the side. So, a safety pin, like something came out. So she takes off the dress, and there's a pin that had opened up, but hanging from the pin is an envelope. And she opens up the envelope, and in there is a note. And the note says, we're very happy to give you this dress, but if you need this dress, surely you have other things that you need also. So please accept this gift. And there was $950 cash.
Cash, dollars.
US dollars.
The pocket?
In pinned to the dress.
There?
Okay? Now that's tzedakah, like the Rambam says. The person who gave it has no clue who gets it. The person who got it has no clue who gave it.
It's real tzedakah.
It's real tzedakah. And this woman couldn't pay her rent. That paid her rent that month. They put food on the table. Again, it's a simple act. And if it would have been just $100 or $200, it would have also been a great thing. It's a concept, it's an idea. You're giving clothes to poor people in Israel. Some people would walk away and say, I did my job. Some people would say, if these people are so poor that they're taking clothes from America, from a box, that means they don't even have the pleasure of going to a store, try it on, see if you like the color, see if you like the design. If you don't even have that, how do I bring a smile to their face? It's a concept. Let me tell you another story. This past week was the 51st yortzeit. That means he passed away over 50 years ago, of a gentleman here in America named Mike Tress. Now, Arsko put out a book about him. He worked with the Aguda, and he saved as many Jews as he could from Nazi Germany and Europe. And when Jews came to America, he tried to find them jobs. He was a very humble person. But people who know him, every Rosh Hashiva took a picture with him. Because this man, Mike Tress, who was no big Talmud Chacham per se, he wasn't a Rosh Hashiva, didn't have a beard, he was clean shaven. But he dedicated his life to helping Jews. Okay. So he had an office in Williamsburg. Okay. In Williamsburg, there was a Satmar Chassid. In Williamsburg, Satmar is the community, but going back to the 1950s, it wasn't what it is today. Satmar today is enormous, and very well organized. Back then, it was not. And there was this Satmar Chassid. He was married, had a few kids, and every time he got a job, came Friday, the boss would say to him, "So I'll see you tomorrow." And the guy says, "No, I can't come tomorrow, it's Shabbos." And the boss says, "You don't come tomorrow, you don't come Monday. That's it, you're finished." So he got a job, worked 3 or 4 days, and got fired. And that's how it was in those days. The reality was that's how it was. And people were desperate, People used to daven Shabbos morning at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and at 8 o'clock they would go to work. They had to put food on the table. So here's this guy, this Satmar Chassid, and he can't pay rent. He's going to be evicted. He comes home, there's no food to put on the table, he has no money. So a few of his friends say to him, don't be foolish. A few blocks down is the Aguda building. There's a guy in there, his name is Mike Tress. Go to him, speak to him, maybe he can help you. Well, the Satmar Chassid's first reaction was, number one, I'm not going to the Aguda building, because Aguda supports Israel, and Satmar
Don't like it.
doesn't support Israel. So I'm not going to the Aguda building, forget about that. Number two, I'm not going to a guy who shaves. This guy, Mike Tress, didn't have a beard. I'm not going to a guy who shaves. And number three, I'm not going to a guy whose name is Mike. If his name was Moshe, if his name was Reuven, if his name was Zvulun, I would go to him. Michael, I'd go to him.
Gabriel.
Right, but I'm not going to a guy named Mike. Goyish name like Mike, I'm not going to go Mike. Okay. Another week goes by, but the guy is starving. He's desperate. He doesn't have a job. So he swallows his pride, as we say, and he goes. So Mr. Tress says to this Satmar Chassid, he says, "Tell me, what do you do? What are you trained as? What is your skill?" He says, "I work with glass. I'm a glazier. I can fashion designs, glass designs." He says, "I don't believe it," he says. "Just today, in Williamsburg, there's a glass factory where the boss called me up and says he needs a worker. I'll give you a letter, take it, he'll hire you on the spot." Okay? Writes him out a letter. The guy goes to the glass factory 3 blocks away, right in his neighborhood. Boss reads the letter, he says, "You're hired." Fantastic. He works for the week, and he gets paid. Thursday comes, he gets a check. Friday, Shabbos, no problem. You go home for Shabbos. The next week he works, gets a check. Every week he gets a check. He's able to put food on the table. He's a mensch, when you don't have money, the stress is tremendous. He's becoming normal again. He can pay a bill. He can buy something in the store. And this goes on for months, 3 or 4 months. Every week he's working, he gets a check. After 3 or 4 months, the boss calls him in, says to him, "On your way home, don't you pass by the Aguda building?" He says, "Yeah, I do. I pass right by it." He says, "Do me a favor. I have a letter here from Mr. Tress. I'm very happy with your work. I'm very happy that he sent you. Take this letter to Mr. Tress." Okay. Folds it up, puts it in the envelope. Guy walks out, he's on his way home, he's going to pass by the Aguda building. Of course, now he has in his pocket this letter from his boss to Mr. Tress. Now, he's curious, what does the letter say, right? The envelope is not sealed. So, what am I going to do? So he can't hold himself back.
He's a Jew.
He's a Jew, he's curious. So he opens up the letter. Inside, the boss writes to, "Dear Mr. Tress, the worker you sent me is doing an excellent job. I'm so happy with him that from now on, I'll be able to pay him myself. You don't have to send me his salary."
No, he doesn't.
He didn't know it.
When Mr. Tress sent his worker to the boss 3 or 4 months ago. Nobody wrote him the letter. Give him a job. I'll pay it. And every week he paid the guy. He gave the boss the money to pay the worker. For months he paid him out of his own pocket. Now the boss says, he's such a good worker, it's okay, I'll pay him myself. I'm going to pay him. Mr. Tress, you never heard of him. They wrote books about him, but you never heard of him. A Satmar Chassid who said, I ain't going to this guy, but ended up going anyway, and Mr. Tress understood if this guy's coming to him, he's really desperate. And what did the guy do? Got him a job, and he paid him out of his own pocket. That was Mike Tress. Now there are people like that. There are people living in New York today that when you go to them, they'll recommend a job here, a job there, and you'll get hired, and sometimes they pay it on their own. I know people like that. I know people that do that.
Real mitzvah.
Look at the dignity. This Satmar Chassid came home every night to his wife and family and was proud to say, I have a job. I work hard. I earn a salary. He didn't know somebody was paying it. You gave a man back his life. You gave a family back their father.
Did he told him that about letter?
He was shocked. He was shocked. He put it back in the envelope. He just couldn't believe it. This guy who I didn't want to go see, he shaves, his name is Mike. He saved my life.
Tzaddik.
See, that's Rosh Hashanah. See, you have this pomegranate, and you say, I should have as many mitzvahs as a pomegranate. And the Gemara says, be careful. Don't insult a Jew, because even a simple Jew who doesn't learn Torah, doesn't know Gemara, but you never know what mitzvahs that person does. Mm-hmm. You have people walking around in your own community, I'm sure, and in the Ashkenazi community for sure, who sit in shul, they're not on the front, they don't get called up to fancy aliyot, and they do mitzvahs, and they save lives like you can't believe. There's a fellow, last night was a barbecue to raise money for an organization called Avigdor's Helping Hand. Did you ever hear of it? Okay. If you heard of it, that's great. My son works for them. My son is involved with them, volunteer. No, he doesn't get paid. What do? If someone passes away, a widow, she fills out a form, they send her a check for $2,000. They'll do it up to 3 times. $2,000, $3,000. So you have a lady, her husband dies, how's she going to pay her bills? She has children. They send out a check, no questions asked. It was designed to help widows all over the United States. They send out checks. Then, this widow, as the children get older, the child gets engaged, they'll give her $5,000 to help pay for the wedding. No. $5,000 means I can pay for the band, the music, or maybe the pictures. Amongst Ashkenazim, we paid ourselves. Stop, $50,000, but it's $5,000 more than zero. No questions asked. You fill out a form, you send it in, nobody embarrasses you. They have people who are dedicated. Jew helping Jew. You have organizations like this, 10, 20, 30, all over the United States. Bein Odom L'Chavero. Jew helping Jew. The people who run it, if you saw them, you wouldn't recognize them. They don't have their names in the paper. Their pictures are not posted anywhere. They sit with everybody else. Simple people. But they do something that nobody else does. They help people. Mm-hmm. I've been involved with them many times. What they do is unbelievable. Jew helping Jew. That's what this is. Okay. Bikurim, the first fruits. So it's very, very interesting. They bring the first fruits. So now, the Gemara, very interesting Gemara. The Gemara in Bava Kama says, a statement like, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Why? The rich person brings a basket of gold. Comes to the Beis HaMikdash, what does the Kohen do? He takes out the fruits, gives him back the basket. The poor man comes with a very simple basket. What does the Kohen do? He takes the basket with the fruit. Now he takes the basket because there's very few fruit in there. He doesn't want to embarrass the person. But the rich man walks out with his gold basket, and the poor man walks out with nothing. So the rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. That's what the Gemara says. Of course, the purpose is, I saw that the Reb Zalman Sorotzkin says that in many cases, the poor man made the basket himself. See, the rich man bought the basket, so it doesn't mean anything to you. But the poor man made the basket himself. If he made the basket himself, it means something to him. So it makes the gift that much more special. But, the Belzer Rebbe says that a Baskel comes down from Shemayim and says that next year you should be as successful, if not more. So the rich man, he'll use the same basket again next year. But the poor man maybe now will have a nicer basket. So for the poor man, the fact that the basket is gone means that maybe he'll get a bigger bracha. And therefore, the bigger the bracha, the greater, the gift for the coming year. So it's possible that, that he might appreciate that a little bit more. So we have the whole mitzvah of Bikurim, and when he comes, he makes a whole speech. He talks about how they left Mitzrayim, and how Lavan tried to destroy Yaakov. A lot of different stories. We read this in the Haggadah. What did Lavan actually do to try to destroy Yaakov? A lot of different stories as to what happened. Okay, next. In Parshas Ki Savo, there is instructions that Moshe gives to the Jewish people when they go into Israel. Who carried this out? Yehoshua. Moshe couldn't do it. Moshe did not go in. What was the instructions? Moshe said to them that when you cross the Jordan River, you're going to take big boulders, rocks, and then you're going to set this up. You're going to make a mizbeach between two mountains, Har Grizim and Har Evel. Where is Har Grizim and Har Evel? Where are these mountains located? In Israel, near Shechem, the city of Shechem. Near Shechem. It's right by Shechem. I was there. Har Grizim is a mountain full of green trees. Har Evel, which was the mountain where they looked and they gave the curses, is just all dirt. Nothing grows. So you have two mountains facing each other right near Shechem. Shevet Levi and the Arnon was in the middle. Okay. And it was over there. You're going to take you're going to take these stones that I'm going to give you. You're going to cover them over in limestone. You're going to make a mizbeach. Don't use any metal. You can't use a knife to cut it. The stones have to be whole. And you're going to write on these stones the entire Torah, Be'er Heitev, clearly explained. So they said that they wrote the entire Torah in 70 languages. Wow. Now, you have to figure out, this is a little bit surprising, because the Torah, just think of a Sefer Torah, has a lot of words to it. Now imagine that same Sefer Torah in French, and in English, and in Russian, and in Armenian, and in Italian, and all the other languages.
But they still
there now? No, I don't think you can see it there now. According to some of the Meforshim, they only wrote the Torah once. But it was written in such a way that you looked at it, you saw what you wanted to see. If you spoke English, you would look and say, hey, look, it's all in English. And if you spoke Russian, you'd say, hey, look, it's all in Russian. And if you spoke French, you'd say, hey, look, it's all in French. And if you spoke Swahili, you would say, hey, look, it's all in Swahili. So it was, the language you know was the language you saw. So it was an interesting diversity. Okay. Then they had to divide up the Shvatim. So it says as follows. On one mountain, on Har Grizim, the mountain which was going to get all the brachos. Remember, the Kohanim were down in the middle. So on this mountain of the brachos was Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. An interesting choice. Yosef means Ephraim and Menashe and Binyamin. Okay. Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, but not Reuven. Reuven was on the other mountain. Yisachar, but not Zvulun. They usually go together. Zvulun was on the other mountain. Okay? On the other mountain, the cursed mountain, you had Reuven, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher are the sons of the Shvachot, of Bilhah and Zilpah. But then you had Reuven and Zvulun. Very odd choice. And Moshe would turn to this side and say, I bless the person who does not speak Lashon Hara. And he would turn here and say, I curse the person who speaks Lashon Hara. But the Torah doesn't bring down the blessings. It only brings down the curses.
If you
Yes.
don't curse,
Why didn't Moshe place everybody on the Mount Gerizim, mountain Gerizim?
So those were the instructions of Hashem, and we're going to find out why each person stood on what mountain. Okay? So it goes through. The honor that says, Aru Ha'ish. What were some of the curses? I curse the man who makes an idol. Okay, I understand that. Okay, I understand that because idol worship was such a horrible thing. Then it says, I curse the person who embarrasses their father and mother. Okay, got that. I curse the person who cheats and moves the boundary of a person's field. That means when you go away on a vacation and you come back and all of a sudden your fence was moved over by 50 feet.
50 feet,
Yeah, so
even 1 foot.
that's an unusual, of all, we're going to only have 11 curses here. Why is that? Because most people don't realize it and it's hard to prove. Aru mashke iver baderech. I curse someone who trips a blind person on the road. Blind person's walking, you stick your foot out. Now, Rashi says it means that you give people bad advice. Because when someone comes to you, because they don't know what to do, they're blind. And they're trusting you that you're going to give them good advice. And you're able to give them good advice, but you don't like the person, so you give them bad advice. So that's the curse. I curse the person who is unjust to a widow or an orphan. Okay? I curse the person who has relations with their father's wife, not your mother, bless you. Or a person who sleeps with animals, or a person who sleeps with his sister, or a person who sleeps with his son-in-law. Very unusual things here. And then I curse a person who hits their friend privately. How do you do that? Speaking Lashon Hara. I curse a person who takes bribes, shochad. And then the last one is, I curse anyone who doesn't keep this Torah. So they're very unusual curses. How do we get these 11 curses? So let's go see. Okay. Each curse was directed to one of the Shevits. Reuven. When Moshe turned, or Yoshua turned to Shevet Reuven, he said, I curse the person who sleeps with their father's wife. What was Reuven accused of?
Yeah.
Sleeping with his father's wife. So the fact that Reuven was on the mountain for that curse meant, if it was true, you would have embarrassed him publicly. So it was a way of Yoshua saying, I don't think it's true, so therefore he shouldn't be embarrassed. Shimon got no curse. No bracha, no curse. Yoshua said, Shevet Shimon, you're going to stand there, I have no words for you. Why do I have no words for you? Because my Rebbe Moshe gave you no words. Moshe never gives Shevet Shimon a bracha.
When they were staying on the blessing.
They were staying on the blessing mountain, because that's the only way they could get a blessing, but there was no blessing curse, no pasuk for Shimon. Moshe didn't say it, Yoshua didn't do it. Levi, it says, Don't make idols. That's for Shevet Levi. Why? Because the one Shevet that never worshipped the golden calf was Shevet Levi. Everybody else, when they heard that, were a little bit embarrassed. The only one who wasn't embarrassed was Levi. So Yeshua says, that's for you, Levi. Okay? I curse the person who doesn't respect their father and mother. That's for Yehuda. Why? Because in Egypt, when Yosef was going to keep Binyamin, who got up there and says, no, our father cannot survive without him? Yehuda. So who showed Kibud Av V'Eim? Yehuda. That was for him. Yisachar, it says, I curse the person who moves the fence. It says that Yisachar was born that night that Leah got Yaakov instead of Rachel, so-called moved the fence. Yosef, I curse the person who misleads people. Yosef was misled in Shechem. His father sent him to Shechem, he thought he was checking on the brothers, it almost cost him his life. Binyamin, I curse the person who does not show fairness to an orphan and widow. Binyamin was the only child who was an orphan. His mother died when he was born. So of all the Shvatim, he was the only one not raised by his mother.
Rachel?
Rachel died when he was born. So therefore, this was for Binyamin. God, it says, I curse the person who lives with their animal. Remember, God had all these animals. But not because they wanted to live with them, it was because they ate the man and they believed in Moshe. So that was a blessing for them.
But is it a sin for a Jewish family to have a cat or dog in the house?
No. In the times of the Gemara, if you didn't control them, but if you control them, they're a pet, it's not a sin. But you have to control them. You can't let them jump on people who are scared. Osher, it says you should not live with your sister. Osher had beautiful daughters. They were known to have more girls than boys. So that was for them. That although they had beautiful daughters, they were very protective of their family. Don't judge people. It says, I curse people who speak lashon hara. Don is compared to a snake. When a person speaks lashon hara, it's like a snake.
Yes.
You know. So that was for Don. Naphtali, it says, I curse a person who takes bribes. Naphtali was special to Leah, and he was compared to someone who wouldn't take brides. So everything was there. And then it says,
so it's a blessing for them, not a curse for them.
sure, the Torah first brought it as a blessing, then a curse. But the Shvatim who were stood up for these brachos and klolos, each one a different shevet was pointed to. And each bracha or curse was designed for that shevet based on their history. Reuven, based on his history. Yosef, based on his history. Yehuda, based on his history of respect to parents. So 11 were chosen, not 12. Shimon got nothing.
Why did he get nothing?
What?
Why did he get nothing?
Because after Arvos Moab, when Zimri ben Solu had that whole, when Pinchas had to step in, and they confronted Moshe, they put the whole Israel at risk. And Moshe was so angry that they never actually did teshuvah. And therefore he never gave them a bracha. And because Moshe never blessed them, they never got a bracha klolo here. And when it came time to divide the land, Yoshua wouldn't give them land in Israel. So how did they get land? Yehuda said, Shimon, I got a big piece of land. I'll make you a deal. You help me conquer it, I'll give you a slice. So Shimon had a slice of Yehuda's land.
He helped him what?
Conquer it.
Attack it.
Attack it, because they had all these 31 kings. So everybody was conquering their land. So Yehuda said to Shimon, you help me, I'll give you a piece. And he did. So, there are consequences. Next week in Parshas Nitzavim, we have the mitzvah of Teshuvah. It's an unusual mitzvah. Imagine, Teshuvah means to say, you go against the Torah, you do an Aveira, you do a sin. So you say you're sorry. Why does that work? Imagine you go to court. I murdered someone, I'm sorry. Oh, well, you're sorry. We'll let you go home. Doesn't work that way, right? Now you're sorry. Oh, wow. I didn't realize I shot 3 people. I'm sorry. You know, it's the old story. A police officer says to a guy who runs a red light, "Didn't you see the red light?" So the guy says, "Sure, I just didn't see you." You know? But I'm sorry. What's that going to get you? Not much. You know, it's an old story. Yeah, I saw the red light, I just didn't see you. Okay, so it says as follows, another few minutes and then we'll let you go. It says, Uvo alecha kol habrochos ha'ela v'hisikucha. All these brachos will come and they'll overtake you. The word lahasig in Hebrew means to understand. A person sometimes has to realize that a lot of the good things that happen to them are because Hashem wants it to happen. And sometimes some of the bad things that happen is because Hashem doesn't want it to happen. Hashem promises rain. If you're good, the rain comes in a nice fashion. Sometimes the rains go into the deserts and the oceans, helps nobody. In the United States, today alone, the rains were horrible. In the Midwest, flooding everywhere. Kansas, devastation. On the coast, Florida is being bombarded with a possible hurricane on its way to New Orleans. So, you know, rain is very devastating. Fire, and look at California, devastating. You know, all parts of the United States, there's, you know, the weather has created tremendous suffering from coast to coast. People have to realize that all this suffering has an address. You have to know the address. Reb Noah Weinberg, who started the yeshiva Eish HaTorah in Israel, tells a story of a long-haired hippie who walked into the yeshiva, and he said, so Reb Noah said to him, "You want to come learn?" So the guy says, "I don't gotta go learn. God and I, we're like this. We're tight. Here's a hippie, this guy, you know, long hair, clothes.
Hippie.
We're tight. God and I, we're tight." He says, "Really? How do you know you and God are the best of friends?" He says, "I was riding my bike down the side of a mountain, and I lost control, and I went over the side of the mountain, and I got caught in a tree, and I was able to make my way back. So if the tree caught me, means God put the tree there, means God saved me, God and I were tight." So Noah Weinberg says, did you ever think about who was responsible for you losing control in the first place? He says, maybe God was trying to get your attention. He saved you, but he was trying to get your attention. What was the attention? That you belong in the yeshiva, you should learn. And he says that he joined the yeshiva and he learned. You know, so it becomes part of what it means. You know, it says in this week's Parsha, very interesting, one of the curses says, you know why all these bad things are happening? Because you didn't serve Hashem with simcha. You know, what does that mean? I got up for davening, I davened. So I didn't have a smile on my face. Is that such a terrible thing? I was tired. You know, there are many times we do things that the Torah says, but we do it and we're not happy. Does everything in the Torah make you happy? No. But the truth is, in order to make someone else happy, you have to be happy. That means if a person does mitzvahs with simcha, it's a different mitzvah. If a person davens with joy in his heart, it's a different joy. It's a different davening. So the importance of knowing what it means to be joyful. It says, you know, next week we say, you're standing at Temni Tzadim Hayom. Throughout the parashas, it talks about today, the inspiration of today. Every day is a fresh day. And one of the most important ingredients is that a person should approach life fresh. A person shouldn't walk in and look at their past and remember all the grief and all the anguish that they had, but rather they should think about all the good things that exist in the world. It's not easy. Most people think of the things they don't have, they don't realize the things they do have. So unfortunately, people don't understand that in life, there are a lot of things we do have. There are some things we don't have, but there are a lot of things we do have. Okay, we're gonna blow shofar, right?
Shofar.
We're gonna blow shofar on Monday, Tuesday next week. How many sounds of the shofar we're gonna hear?
3.
99.
Well, 100.
100.
100.
Plus 1.
3 times.
Right, we're gonna hear tekiah, then shvorim trua tekiah 3 times, then tekiah, shvorim tekiah 3 times, and then shvorim trua 3 times. Then we're gonna hear it in the Shemona Esrei, and then you hear it again after the Shemona Esrei, and when they repeat the Shemona Esrei, at the end of the Shemona Esrei, and at the end as well. By the time you're through, you're gonna hear the shofar 100 times. A lot of different reasons why we hear it 100 times, some very surprising. Reb Saadia Gaon gives 10 messages the shofar conveys. Okay, the first message, Yom Hadin. When you hear that shofar, in the olden days when there was a war, how do they get your attention? Shofar. In Israel today, if you're under attack, what sound do you hear?
Siren?
A siren, an air raid siren. When that siren goes off, everything stops. Israelis are used to that. When they hear that siren, it means you gotta go to the bunker, you gotta go to the air raid shelter. In America, you don't hear that. We used to hear it in the 60s. Yeah, before Shabbos maybe. But other than that, you don't hear it. You hear the shofar blowing, it's like a sign. Yom Hadin. Serious time. Number 2, the shofar is going to be the sound we hear to get the geula when Mashiach comes. So when we hear the shofar, what are we hoping for?
Mashiach.
Mashiach the King. So we want to hear that sound. It's not a sound that's supposed to scare us, it's supposed to be a sound that we welcome. The shofar also is supposed to be Mechayei Mesim. So when we hear the shofar, we think about everybody who passed away. When we hear the shofar, we think about the Churban Beis Hamikdash and the Sinas Chinam and everything that happened. But when we think about the sadness, we think also, number 5, about Akedas Yitzchak. When we say to Hashem, just like Abraham was willing to sacrifice Yitzchak, please save us in that schus. When we hear the shofar, we think about all the Nevi'im who gave us Musar. Number 7, we're supposed to think about Har Sinai, when Hashem gave the Torah. When we hear the shofar, we think about the king, Melech Malchei Amlochim, because that's how they used to anoint the king and inaugurate the king. And when we think of the shofar, we're supposed to be afraid, because the Navi says in Amos, can the shofar blow in the city and people not tremble? So the shofar is supposed to awaken within us a lot of different emotions. And yet,